And it all has to, everything has to work well to get integrated into the narrative. We can't just willy-nilly act. Everything we're doing is we're trying to keep the world grounded and believable. It all make logical sense. And we feel like that's how we can best immerse the player in this journey.
What makes a good game? Is it the gameplay, the story, graphics? Maybe it has nothing to do with these things. Or maybe it's all of them. I know it sounds like a really stupid question, and it probably is. But really ask yourself, what makes that game good? Why did I enjoy that so much? Why did I hate this? Think about the different elements that shape those opinions. It should be all about that initial experience and subsequent reflection. At this point, we're starting to review the game in question, but this is just the very beginning. I want to dive deeper and focus on video game reviews when it comes to their positive and negative impacts, review methods, scoring methods, things to acknowledge, questions to ask yourself, and video game elements. Obviously, there are so many things that you have to keep in mind when both creating and consuming a review on something, and this brings me to my first review method. Games are built upon a variety of elements, and sometimes you want to break everything down and discuss those specific elements. There's really two parts to this. One looks at more general elements, while the other hones in on each of them, branching off into extremely specific subsets. The first part deals with what I consider to be the four main aspects of a game: story, gameplay, visuals, and sound. And this method seems to be pretty common among reviewers. Sure, they may not always explicitly break those sections apart for separate discussions in their review, but I think they at least use this idea as a way to discuss the overall experience of a game and what it has to offer. It might be the most normal way to review a game. The second part of this method is when reviewers take it a step further and break down every single detail of every single element. This includes things like voice acting, the feel of the controls, the pacing, the facial animation, the fit of the soundtrack, the challenge, and so much more. This is a design I made that showcases how that element branching may look. It does its best to explain everything for the reader so that they can get a better understanding of every single thing the game has to offer and how it all works together. I still think that it's extremely important that the reader or viewer sees the game and at least some of those details that are being discussed, so then they can visually judge for themselves. But nothing will beat actually playing it, experiencing it, and forming your own opinion that way. Now, when it comes to balancing those different game elements and how you review each of them for a specific game, it's entirely up to you to decide how you feel the game's experience benefits from each of them. Maybe Heavy Rain or Until Dawn don't have great detailed gameplay, but they do have interesting stories because that's what they want to focus on. Their narratives. How does that balance out though? This is where it can get very subjective, and sometimes you shouldn't worry about being so specific. Just think about that overall experience. Everyone will always have their own opinion. It's very important to keep this in mind. Readers and viewers should always try to have an open mind about everything because I believe that every experience is at least worth trying or checking out. More often than not, people need to judge for themselves. The second main method for reviewing is the more organic and natural essay. This is when reviewers let their thoughts on a game more or less flow out of them, moving from subject to subject with ease. I feel like this gives the review more character, personality, and flow. It allows the review to feel so much more genuine and be led by experiences both positive and negative. They don't really mention anything unless they feel that they need to. So for me, those are the two main methods of reviewing: separating elements and organic discussions. A couple of other extra methods I thought of include listing pros and cons, discussing specific experiences encountered in the game, and answering different questions, such as, what did the game want you to feel? Did it succeed at that? How so? This sums up the experience in an interesting way. Here's an example with Naughty Dog's The Last of Us. This game focuses on attempting to make the player feel like they are just scraping by, just barely making it through every situation, outnumbered and struggling to survive with what they have left. It may be a good idea to ask a lot of these questions. How does the game feel? How does the game make you feel? Who is it a game for? What was exciting? What was boring? How does it compare to similar games? Let these questions start to guide your thoughts on a game. A really crucial one to hit on is, how do we judge different games? They can be so different with their experiences, and we have to realize that it's all about how we ourselves connect to those experiences. On October 19th, 2019, the Game Informer Show podcast had Ben Hansen talk to Game Informer's reviews editor Joe Juba about how to write a video game review. During the video, Juba mentions how as a reviewer you have to recognize that this is all your opinion. It is all about your experiences. Did you like the game? Why or why not? The process can start as simple as that. He also talks about how it's important to think about the review from other perspectives as well, especially if you're biased. This could include a reviewer's familiar history with a series, a developer, or even a genre. I would say to try your best to be objective on what you can be objective about, which is most likely the facts. Stuff like, this game has a 12-hour story, there's 8 multiplayer maps, there's 25 unlockable skills, and so on. It's up to you to determine whether or not some of these things are important in a review. So don't forget to be thorough, fair, and honest. Embrace the subjectivity. I think this level is a lot of fun to explore. I think the visuals have a pleasant style. I think the movement feels really smooth. I think the gameplay is really rewarding. Talk about your personal experiences with the game. What happened with you and why? It's absolutely incredible how people can take the same thing and have completely different reactions and feelings about it. And make sure to think about the different criticism types as well. Passive, aggressive, neutral. Criticism is healthy and criticisms need reasons. Bottom line it for people. Now there's about 5 main scoring methods I could think of, first of which is the infamous point score system, and this has to be by far the most popular one. With my research, I found a great video talking